Sit back, it's time to get groovy. Question, do you remember that movie?
Welcome back to Remember That Movie. I am actually the third Alejandro Rosa on IMDb.
And I am Steve Johnston, and I am definitely not on IMDb.
And welcome back to another episode and another movie. This week, we are doing a choice of mine, going back to 1989 for the film The War of the Roses. Steve, is this your first time? Have you watched this before? Did you know about this film? What is your personal history with The War of the Roses?
The first time that I heard of The War of the Roses was when we were discussing Death to Smoochie, because it came up as one of Danny DeVito's earlier directorial outings. Prior to that, was not aware of its existence, so this was the first time that I had seen it.
I grew up watching this film. Once we get into the plot, you will understand why it's odd that a little boy was watching this movie.
There are plenty of things that you watched as a little boy that one would consider odd by today's standards.
Very much so, yes. And my children would never go anywhere near anything like this.
No. I have to ask, was this another HBO find?
This was one of those films that was always playing on HBO. I always watched it. I've always liked Danny DeVito. He was always in movies when I was a kid, and I loved him. And so I remembered that Kathleen Turner, you can't not know that voice. Once you hear that voice, it's in there. It's in there forever.
Yes.
And of course, Michael Douglas. Before that, though, I also knew these three people from some of their other films together.
Oh, yes. You're about to say
That's
Romancing
okay.
the Stone.
Which was in 1984. That was the first time the three of them were together. It was a year later, The Jewel of the Nile, which is the sequel.
Okay, the sequel, yeah.
Which was on HBO more frequently than Romancing the Stone, which is why I have seen The Jewel of the Nile way too many times. And then we get to 1989, where the trio is back again, but this time, for the first time, being directed by Danny DeVito. This is actually his second film that he directed. What is The War of the Roses?
It's not a historical drama about the battle between the House of Lancaster and the House of York vying for control of England.
It is also not the 1981 novel by American writer Warren Adler. Warren Adler was classmates with Mario Puzo. Ever heard of him?
I have. Why have I heard that name?
Because he wrote his own novel called The Godfather.
That's right, yes. Yes.
To get us started, I found a wonderful description from the back of a VHS. Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, and Danny DeVito star in this cunning comedy about the demise of a marriage. Oliver and Barbara have been together for 18 years. Now Barbara wants a divorce. But when it comes to deciding who will get their sumptuous house, neither is willing to give an inch. Oliver's lawyer, DeVito, offers some savvy advice, but it's already too late. Oliver and Barbara become entangled in a mire of rapidly escalating spite and revenge as the War of the Roses moves towards its stunning conclusion. You know what, Steve? We've read a lot of VHS tapes. I think this is one of the most well-written, that's the most accurate, too.
I'd have to agree.
This is a movie about divorce. The destruction of a marriage. But you know, it's almost like you do get the destruction of the marriage bit, but it's mostly about when it's already broken. Like, we get the whole story, right? We get the meeting when they're very young.
Yeah.
And we see them having small kids and not having any money until they become wealthy. And we kind of, then we skip forward. And then we realize that something is not great here in this relationship. What I love about this movie, just from the get-go, is the opener. And we will learn is going to be our narration, which is Danny DeVito's character, the lawyer, the divorce lawyer, who is sitting in his office with a client who never speaks throughout the course of the film. He's meeting with somebody who's talking about getting a divorce. And Danny DeVito is like, okay, but let me tell you a story first. There is something so well crafted about this throughout the entire film, because what happens is we keep cutting back to the lawyer's office as he's telling the tale, and as it keeps evolving, we keep cutting back. I think it is such a brilliant piece of writing. It has some of the best dialogue in it. And I think it's also because I personally find Danny DeVito insanely charming on screen. So to
Yes. Yeah.
have him be your storyteller, your guide, I was smitten with him from the get-go. I was just like, God, I just love this man so much. So I've mentioned Danny DeVito, who
Yep.
is a Golden Globe and Emmy winner. And we have kind of a very tiny, really strong cast here. We have a 2-time Academy Award winner, 5-time Golden Globe winner, and an Emmy winner, Michael Douglas. Huge star at the time, huge star still today. In the other side of the ring, we have a 2-time Golden Globe winner, 2-time Tony nominee, Oscar nominee, Kathleen Turner. A couple of side characters that we should at least acknowledge. First and foremost, we have the character of Susan, who is our housekeeper. Steve, you're going to help me here because it has a German name, which I texted to
Yes.
you. So,
Yep.
Steve, could you help me tell the people who played the character of Susan?
What I love is that you have put this upon me so that when I mangle the pronunciation, you can point your finger and go, it was his fault.
I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I did not take German in junior high.
Well, very good. I believe her name is Marianne Segebrecht.
There are 2 children. There's a boy and a girl of the Roses.
Yes.
We have Josh and Carolyn,
Yep.
and they're played by several actors, tiny, tiny actors, some really young actors, and then the last bit, which is kind of our teenage actors, is Heather Fairfield, who is an actor and a producer, plays Carolyn, and a very young Sean Austin, who plays Josh. We start with a marriage, and we're just going to work together, and you're going to build he's a lawyer, so we're going to build your practice, and she's going to be supportive, and then she falls in love with this beautiful house, and it is quite beautiful. I love how she actually ends up getting the house. She writes a note. She goes up to the door. It's a little note saying, hey, if you ever feel like selling, I really love this house. And somebody opens the door. And like, oh, come in, dear, come in. And it was like, mother had so many friends. And you realize it's awake.
It's awake.
Yep. And then the lady is like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this big house. I don't want to put it on the market. If I could find somebody who would love it and cared for mom. And you can see this smile on Kathleen Turner's face, like, wow, the golden opportunity has arrived.
Yeah.
But it's also, interestingly enough, the beginning of when we see the fraying of the marriage, right? When they move into the house, it's a Saturday, and they're bringing all this stuff in, and he goes, great, see you later. And she's like, wait, where are you going? He goes, I got to go to work. She goes, it's Saturday. I said, well, we got to pay for this.
Yeah.
And then he walks out, and she's like, oh. And that's sort of like just a little hint of like things are going to go a little wrong here.
I'm going to disagree with you slightly. I think we get the first hint of that during the Christmas episode when the kids are really, really small. He is buried in his work. He is writing something on legal paper and seems mildly annoyed that the kids are trying to play with him. And then when she comes home, I think that's where she pulls out this cardboard and tinfoil star to put on top of the Christmas tree, which you can tell he's not thrilled about. Then she insists on, let's go for a walk out in the snow. And he kind of resists, but then goes along with it. And then gets very happy when she gives him the car. That was my first indication that, he's not the best of people.
They clearly have different views on life in general, where she thought something was cute and sweet.
But I will agree with you that the house, when he excuses himself on a Saturday to go work, doesn't he say something like, you get the fun part of unboxing everything?
He does. Yeah, you get the fun part, and then you can see her kind of alone.
Yeah. And
we kind of get this transition where the narrator tells us that she spent years working on every room because it was a big house. She did a lot of the work herself. And until by the end, when you get to year 17, Every single part of the house is done. Every piece of furniture, every floor, everything has been chosen exactly. And it is perfection. And it has been her life's work at this point, raising the children and making the house, which of course leads to the conflict later. And then she decides to start a business.
Yes.
Because she likes to cook, and she made pâté, right?
Yes. Yep.
And somebody said, hey, I'd totally buy this. She goes, really? Said, yeah. If you make some, I'll buy it from you. And she does. And it's the kind of cutest thing where she goes, I got $30. And he's like, you sold stuff to our friends?
Friends, yeah.
She wanted to buy it. Yeah. And it felt good. I think I want to do more of it. And that's another moment where he's like, sure, that's, cute. Yeah. Go for it, honey, if that makes you happy or whatever. She starts the business. He gets her a housekeeper, a live-in housekeeper. And she flips out. She absolutely flips out. And poor Susan, what a beautiful character.
Oh, yeah.
Who comes in. She is so charming, so sweet.
I have to say, the job interview scene between Susan and Barbara is slightly heartbreaking, but hilarious. Because Barbara is pouring her heart out about how she doesn't want a housekeeper. She doesn't need someone to come into this house. She has spent all these years putting this house together. It is her. She doesn't need someone else coming in. Susan gets up to leave, and she goes, all right, let me show you where you're staying.
Steve and I are both longtime married people. Sometimes couples can have their sniping moments. Happens on occasion. We all know this. Imagine if you did that, but then you escalated, and then you escalated more, and on and on and on. And there's this huge, just wave of escalation. That is what this movie is. It's two people who, little by little, go from loving each other to loving each other clearly a lot less to pretty much by the end, yes, despising each other and trying to destroy each other's lives a little bit. There is a big moment, which is the heart attack. This is also, I believe, in the book. Oliver is at a restaurant doing his thing, and he has what he thinks is a heart attack. He ends up in a hospital. He's in Philadelphia. He's somewhere else. He's not where they live. He traveled by train to Philadelphia, has a heart attack there. She is at a meeting with her new business that she's doing, and they call her. And so you see her kind of run away from the business meeting that she was in. And then you realize that Oliver wasn't having a heart attack. It's like a hernia. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And then Barbara doesn't come to the hospital. He waits for her. Gavin is his best friend, played by Danny DeVito. He comes and he goes, I'm just waiting for Barbara. And Barbara never shows. And this leads to him going back on the train with Gavin. And he comes home. And then she comes home later. And he is just livid. And then we get to kind of the revelation for Barbara. She said, I got so scared I had to pull over on her way to the hospital. And she said, I got so scared because she thought he might be dead. And she said, I felt happy.
Yeah.
And of course, he's like, what?
What?
What? As any person would be like,
yes.
I'm sorry. Say that again. Which has a great follow-up line. No, so how am I supposed to respond? You tell me you wish I was dead. And she says, I think it's important. And then he says, I think you owe me an apology, Barbara. But then she says it. Like, oh, wow. This is where our marriage is, right? She's like, oh, I want a divorce. And then he says, you can't have one. And then she kind of goes into it, right? Like, every time I see you, every time I watch you eat, every time I watch you sleep, I want to smash your face in.
Yeah.
It's very not subtle. And then he challenges her. He says, come on, smash my face in. And he starts saying it a second time. Come on, smash my... And she totally punches him in the face. Then they have an explosion. It's an explosion of marital horrors, right? No, number one, they try to do the normal thing, right? They go to a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
And guess what happens? She says, I don't want alimony. I just want the house and the stuff in it. I don't want anything from your law firm. Give me the house. Give me the stuff. Done. And we're square. And he goes, no. I bought that house. I bought that stuff. My stuff. My house. And she's like, I built that house from the ground up. You know, I did everything. I furnished it. I did. Yeah, with my money. When did you go, oh my God? Because there were a bunch of moments that you could have gone, oh my God, Steve. Because again, I cannot emphasize this enough. This escalates.
What sort of oh my God do you want? Because there is the dinner scene in which Barbara is attempting to throw sort of an introductory dinner to her best clients to show off some new dishes, and he crashes the party and pisses on the fish, which led to one of my favorite lines from the entire movie. The food critic saying, oh, I think we're witnessing the beginning of a family tiff. I don't know if we should stay or we should go, but I recommend skipping the fish course. There was a point earlier in the film where I put my head in my hands and just kind of shook it going, oh no. And that is when Gavin points out to Oliver this obscure law that says that even though they are separated and going through a divorce, he's still allowed to stay in the house. And he kind of just barges right back through the front door and declares, I'm living here. And you know that I spent a lot of this movie going, no good can come of this.
I remember specifically because Gavin is like, look, it's a rule that was written for poor people because they could not afford, if they break up, they cannot afford to move out.
Right.
So as long as you're not intimate, you can be in the same space. And that's actually real. I had friends who were divorced unofficially for years, but they couldn't afford to live separately. And it was fine as long as there was no hanky or panky. It was legal. It was totally legal. And Gavin says, when he's talking to his client, worst thing I've ever done. The other thing that made me laugh was at some point they keep figuring out ways to coexist, and they've come up with a map, and it has like
yes,
his section, her section, and kind of neutral ground they can both sort of be in. And my favorite line is like, do you see it? I got more square footage. They're having fights, and at some point he gets in his car to go get medicine, accidentally runs over the cat, and then doesn't tell her. So that's the other thing. He holds off that he does not give her that information right away. I'm trying to remember what set him off for the dinner party.
So I remember he goes to Gavin and says, look, she's throwing a dinner party, and look, she told me she was having the house fumigated to get rid of me that evening.
That's right.
So he feels slighted because of that.
Can I get her with that? And Gavin's like, she's allowed to have a dinner party. So he does this horrible thing. She storms out. What does he drive?
It is a beautiful little machine. I'm afraid I don't remember the name of it.
It's called a 1960 Morgan Roadster Plus 4.
The Morgan. That's right.
Morgan, which was a car he was obsessed with. And it's very cute at the beginning of the film because when she gives him the car, it's all rusty and it doesn't look great.
Yep. And I actually loved this detail because following the scene where she gives it to him, the next step forward in the timeline is the dinner party at the apartment. And Danny DeVito pulls up on the curb, and behind his car, you see the restored Morgan with a new fresh coat of paint, and it looks fantastic. So I did like that bit.
It was very cute. She is driving something called a GMC Jimmy 1500 from 1989. It's a big truck.
That just has big truck written all over
and
it.
Big tires. It's high up. And the Morgan is a tiny little European car, 2-person seater, you know.
Yeah.
She decides to get in her truck and then kind of threatens to run the Morgan over, and then does.
Yes.
Crashes his car with him in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like monster truck style on top of it. It's an amazing scene. And that they actually did crash the Morgan. They did crush it.
Oh.
For real.
Was it an actual Morgan?
It was an actual Morgan. And they did actually destroy it. But,
Oh.
well, it's okay. There's a happy ending. Somebody
Okay, good.
bought it
Oh,
and then went
restored
to
it?
restore it. Well, they
Oh,
were going to, but they died. But then
oh.
someone else, someone else.
That's your happy ending?
No, wait. You know what? There's layers. And then that person, when that person died, somebody else I think bought it, and I think they did restore it.
Okay.
So see, we got there eventually. It's peaks and valleys, man. So anyway, yes. So she destroys his car, and that again, this is where we're like, oh my god, things are going to go horribly. Fast forward to the end, they're essentially locked in the house. They are literally like throwing things at each other. It's like the scene in Mr. and Mrs. Smith where they're just attacking each other, but imagine no guns and just clever things of just messing with each other's heads. There's a moment in the middle where Susan shows up and the house is like destroyed.
Yeah.
And it's a great scene because Michael Douglas is like, "Hi, Susan, how are you? Oh, we're fine. You should go." And she's like, What? Oh, what about Miss Barbara? I need to know Miss Barbara's okay." He goes, "Barbara, Susan wants to make sure you're okay." And she's like, "Never better."
That's right, yeah.
By the way, he has shut all the windows and doors with like pieces of wood. He's nailed it all shut. They are trapped in there. And then he calmly gets Susan out of the house.
And then we have this was one of the most disturbing shots in the film, is when Susan is pushed out and she stops and she looks over her shoulder essentially, and we see the house and we see Barbara's face in the window on the second floor staring down at her. And then Michael's face appears in another window. Not Michael, sorry. Oliver's face appears in another window, and they're both just staring out at Susan with
and
the look
dark.
of both.
The house is dark.
Yeah. And it's the look on their faces is kind of a mix of go away and help.
Yeah.
From
like
both of them.
Things like, have gotten so crazy. Oh, by the way, I should say this because this is so important. The thing that leads to the complete and utter destruction is that after they've had the car incident and all of this, at some point she sort of sets up a truce dinner, right? Because it's getting too far. We're going way too deep into it. And it's an interesting moment because you really do see that they're coming from different places. She is like, "I'm done. I want to be done with this marriage. I just want the house." And he still believes that they still belong together and that he loves her and she definitely loves him. And she's like, "No, I definitely do not." And he pushes her, right? Not physically. He pushes her with words.
Yeah.
And then it gets dark again. We're only happy for like a split second. We're having a nice. And then it's possible that she informs him that the delicious pâté he's eating might be his dog. That's when the table gets flipped over. That's when the chasing begins. That's where the throwing stuff begins. That is very important, even though we, the audience, learn that it was a fake. Yes. They cut to the dog in the yard at one point. Benny's fine. She totally faked him out. But it leads to the chaos that leads to all of this and him locking everything and all that. Somewhere in there, she starts loosening the chandelier so that it'll land on him. Yeah. It's almost Looney Tunes, but not, because here's the thing. Here's the thing that's so important. This movie is funny at times, but it gets real thriller bit at times. It gets really intense and dark. And I think that has a lot to do with the caliber of people doing it. It's a dark comedy. So they're playing it very straight. It's not for laughs. The situation is funny, but they are so intense. And there was a couple of moments there where I was like, "Oh, dear God."
Yeah.
Like, this is getting really scary. There was a couple of moments where I'm like, this is like genuinely scary. This ends with, at some point, chasing, fighting, and she ends up on the chandelier. And then he tries to help her. He does try to help her. Go ahead.
Refresh my memory. Does he push her off the balcony? Or does she lean on the railing and it breaks? I cannot remember exactly how she ends up.
He doesn't push her off the balcony. I think she's trying to get away. It might be that it breaks. And of course, because they make it a point that she's a gymnast, she jumps up and grabs onto the chandelier. Right. And then is able to lift herself up. And then he, being like, "Well, I'm still going to save you." And she's like, "Don't do that. It's going to knock you off because it's so heavy." Because he's got like
It's like it's not a tire iron sort
It
of
is like a
deal.
tire iron, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's
Very
like a
good.
tire iron, and he hooks it, and sure enough, the thing is so big and so heavy that it knocks him off of the damn balcony as well. And so then eventually he climbs himself up into the chandelier, and we have this moment where the two of them are on the chandelier. And then there is this line, which I absolutely adored. I loosened the bolt. I was going to drop it on you. And he says, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell? And so the thing is slowly coming apart. In the process, Susan has called Gavin, and he comes running over, and they see them, and they're like, hang on, we're getting a ladder. And they plummet to their deaths. This has one of my favorite end moments of a scene, quite possibly ever. They both are laying on the ground, clearly just last gasps of before death. And he slowly, barely able to move, eyes are closed, reaches over and puts his hand on her shoulder in a loving gesture. And then she slowly lifts up her hand and brings it to his hand and then pushes it off her.
Yep.
And then she dies. Danny DeVito's character says, I don't know what the moral is. Then he tells the client, look, man, if you want to do this, we're going to do it. But you are going to be generous. You're going to be so generous you get night sweats. Because my job is to help you get through this as fast as possible so that you can restart your life. You can do that. Or you can go home.
Yep.
You can go home and see if you can find that sweetheart that you remember. See if you can kind of save that marriage. And then he says, I'll give you a minute. And he walks over to the window.
Yes.
And he just smokes his cigarette. And in the reflection, you see the guy leave. I don't know. There's so many parts to this that for me work. But what do you think? What is Steve's take on this film?
So I was very happy when about 5-10 minutes ago, you described it as a dark comedy, because that is what it was advertised as in every place that I saw it online, on Amazon. Oh, it's a dark comedy. It's a dark comedy thriller, sort of that sort of thing. Comedy is subjective, which is awesome, because I love that different people can find different things entertaining, and that's cool. This did not work for me. This was too dark with not enough comedy. It seemed that every 5 to 10 minutes, someone went, oh, wait, we're supposed to do something funny here. So yeah, when he pushes her down the stairs, she does a cartwheel because she's a gymnast. Hilarious. But then we get back to murder in his eyes, murder in her eyes.
Yes.
There are so many times when this struck me as almost like Shakespearean tragedy.
Oh, yes.
Type of storytelling.
I agree. It is a tragedy. Like, he's telling a tragedy.
It's like Merchant of Venice, where it's like, no, I will have my pound of flesh, despite the fact that every other character is telling him, no, stop this. Give up the house. Well, we're not giving up the house. You know, you can have half of it. Nope, I'm not leaving the house. Like, it just gets pushed to such an absurd level. I just found this awkward and unnerving. There are movies that we have watched on this podcast where at the end of it, I have sat back and have gone, did I enjoy that? I was asking myself that question a quarter of the way through the movie. And I was watching it going, I don't know whether I should be entertained or horrified. So I don't think it struck the right balance to be a dark comedy. It was either dark or it was comedy, and there was no kind of blending of the two. Now, what I have been trying to figure out over the last couple of days while thinking about this is, if this were presented to me as it's a thriller, it's a horror, it's, a drama or something like that. If you had left out the description of, oh, no, there's comedy in it as well, would I have had a different take on it? And I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately.
I think the problem is I have watched dark comedies that are dark, that are very dark. Then there's other comedies that are sort of dark. I think that Death to Smoochie falls somewhere in the slightly more lighter than dark. It is dark, but it is also
Yes.
absurd,
Yes.
right? And so the
Yeah.
absurd makes the dark easier to swallow.
Yeah.
I don't think this film hits us enough with the absurd, with the
Yes.
funny, to make the
Yeah.
dark stuff more palatable.
The level of satire, I don't think, is there enough to make it as entertaining as, one might want. Now, I just want to clarify, and I know I've said this in prior episodes, I have no issue with the acting. Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, phenomenal at the parts that they are playing. It is just that the way the parts they are playing are written was not to my liking.
What do you think everyone else thought about this film
When did Danny DeVito do Throw Mama from the Train?
before that?
And the reason I ask that is because if that is semi-fresh in people's minds, if people are going, oh, hey, Danny DeVito's directed in the movie Throw Mama from the Train, I know was fairly successful, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
I would imagine that this did well. How well, I don't know. But I would imagine that it at least made its money back.
You're right. It absolutely made its money back. War of the Roses had a budget of $26 million. It made $160 million at the box office.
Smokes.
Yes.
Damn.
Also, you're capitalizing on fans of Romancing the Stone and The Jewel of the Nile. The people did not have a problem with this movie. But what about critics? What do you think the critics' reaction was?
I don't know. The fact that it did well financially probably meant that critics gave it their blessing. But at the same time, we have seen movies where the general populace loved it, but the critics did not.
I will give you 2 reviews, and I will tell you what a third said. One of the reviews I had to shorten because it was a bit on the long side. Biting, vicious, a styptic pencil on the battered face of a, quote, civilized divorce. It's also thoughtful, laceratingly funny, and bravely true to its own black and blue comic vision. This was a review by Sheila Benson from the Los Angeles Times.
Okay.
Black, angry, bitter, unrelenting comedy. A war between the sexes that makes James Thurber's work on the same subject look almost resigned by comparison. That was the beginning of Roger Ebert's. He gave it 3 out of 4 stars. There was a review from the Rolling Stone that said, yeah, they loved it. They thought it was great. I did not find a real negative review about the film. I thought I would. Because, again, this isn't for everybody, but all positives. They really embraced the kind of dark comedy of it, and they thought it was well executed.
I will agree. The directing is very good. The cinematography is nice as well.
Here's a little tidbit for you to enjoy. They originally did not show you the dog was alive until the end of the movie. Test audiences hated that.
Hated it.
They were like, It is too cruel. You gotta let us know the dog's fine, that he's not eating it. Because we're gonna think for 10 minutes that he ate that dog. The last little sprinkle of trivia that I'll tell you. 20th Century Fox, the bigwigs, were like, come on, DeVito, give us a happier ending. We're afraid that this won't do well internationally if you don't give us a happier ending. And he said, audiences will not appreciate a dishonest movie. There's no way this ends happily. That would be dishonest. That is the War of the Roses, and Steve and I are having our own War of the Roses right now. So you're going to have to decide. You tell us in the comments. Share with us. Number 1, if you've ever seen this before. Number 2, if our description of it has made you want to see it or never want to touch it, which is fair.
Yeah.
Which is fair.
Either one will work.
Steve, it is your turn to decide where we will go next.
We are going to go forward in time by about 6 years to the year 1995, and we are going to watch The City of Lost Children.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Whichever one of those you're doing, we're grateful for. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Please comment on this film or any of our episodes. We really enjoy them. I make it a point to try to look at all of them when I can. They always make us laugh. And thank you so much. I guess we will see you next time when we tackle
The City of Lost Children.
Sit back, it's time to get groovy. Question, do you remember that movie?